Here we go. Another weeklies. Thank you guys for joining us from the Blender canteen. It's great to see that half of the crew is working at the studio again. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what all of you guys did this week. Like every weeklies, for me it's really fun, you know, to see work from other departments, to see the shot that you've worked on coming back from lighting as an animator. And yeah, it's especially working from home nowadays, it's one of those moments where you'll really have a feeling of getting together and see each other's work and have a little bit of a team feeling to it. So yeah, so let's start with you, Matthew. Can you kick it off?
So, you know, I feel the same way. Things are, we get to see everything actually getting made now. After spending a year in story, which everybody's like, what's going on in story? You know, what's the point of that? Well, the point of it is that we get it all figured out so we can animate it and then we can look at it and it looks awesome, right? But even as we're putting this through the final shots and sequences we're putting into layout, we're still thinking about the story. We're still wanting to plus it, and I'm happy that there were a couple of shots that were still kind of stuck in my teeth that I was like, we've got to still fix that one, and so in Grove, you'll notice that there's a couple of shots gone now. You'll notice that Ellie, when she looks through her binoculars and she sees the mushrooms, and you see Rex say, "Yeah, you know, I pitched my 10 in that." I'm happy to say that we streamlined that just to keep the energy up of these guys coming into the forest. You got the music playing, and I'm very happy to say that it worked. And so we're continuing to do these things. You know, from my experience working on films, you're always wanting to keep tightening things up, shaving off, frames wherever you can. And I feel like that was a big part of what Hjalti and I was doing in layout this week, and getting it ready so that we can start animating all the intro and Grove and all that, and that's gonna be fun. But in the meantime, it's very rewarding to see the short coming to life. I can't be more proud of the work I keep seeing, of the team. So I'm excited for to see what we have to show today. And then Hjalti, I think you're going next.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Um, for the most part, I mean, I was doing some stuff that is not visually that fun to show. Like, for example, going over a lot of the dialogue stuff and going over the different takes and editing them together and whatnot. Probably the most visually fun thing I did this week was kind of dig up this old shot that Rick animated and find it all completely broken. And then, Jay here is my favorite. And then kind of repair everything and getting it back into shape. Some of the rigs have like actually changed, some of the bones or some of the stuff has changed. So in some cases I had to kind of do some manual stuff, but it's like an interesting puzzle. And my favorite blooper of the entire film, of course. I did a thing just before this weekly, which was like, what if I just did a quick comparison of some of the versions during the week of the beginning? And I made this thing, no audio or anything like that. But here we have kind of the last week of this segment. And then early in the week, middle of the week, and then this is kind of where I ended up. And there's a lot of small changes here and there. There's also changes in sound, but you won't really notice that much. There were also some additional little test shots that I did that we just immediately identified that, oh, that's not going to work. So we just discarded that idea. But at the end of the entire segment here, from what we had last week and what we have right now, it is almost 6 seconds shorter. So I'm kind of very happy about that. But we'll see kind of where it ends up when I finalize all of that stuff next week. But I'll just say that's my week. Thank you very much.
It's actually Angela's last week, which is a little sad, to be honest. But also, I really, on behalf of the whole team, I want to say thank you to your awesome work. Your presentation always stand out to me, like the detail that you put into it. And it's something like in as a retopo, like that's barely noticeable if it's done super well. And we in animation, we really pick the fruits out from there. And I really want to say thank you for all the great work, all the characters and all the stuff you made so far. And yeah, big applause for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
And I wish you well on your, I really want to wish you well on your journey in the future, what plans you have for that. And yeah, hopefully we'll meet again once the movie is done and we can watch it together.
Yeah, and I figure, Angela, we'll probably be contacting you again in 2 weeks or something, so don't go anywhere. But thanks, sincerely thanks for making this short look awesome. So
really quickly sum it up for what we did in the art department. I mean, everyone's going to show their stuff, so what I'm going to say is not going to do justice. But this week we prepared more props than any week before. So for the next upcoming scenes, mostly intro, growth, and village, we had to prepare so much for animation that yeah, it's going to be really great to see everything. Especially for the village, we had a lot of props that needed to be done. Then lighting wise, we had Nightfall that was kicked off in lighting. Spray got finished in lighting this week. We had sorry about that. Snacks is a super complex scene that's being thrown at us right now, and animation is still happening. But also at the same time, lighting is happening, and also the research for the spray effects is happening at the same time. The melting effects of the Sprite. Spray effects, that's a good thing. That also happened this week. And then we're also finishing up some of the characters. Most characters are now completely modeled. In fact, they're all modeled, and they're going into rigging and shading right now. So we're also gonna see some of that. All right, enough of that. So
maybe this just touch up or something.
Hold on.
Like,
I can show.
paint.
Okay, I'm gonna show some of the initial lighting here in Nightfall. Unfortunately, here we can't really quite see it because the screen is really bad. But I did an initial first pass of the whole scene, and maybe this lets me mute it. Okay. Yes. Good. So I did an initial first pass of the whole scene, and the animation was still being completed. Some props weren't there. Also, Beau picked up some of the later shots. He's going to show you what happened as the sequence continued. But my first job was just to do an initial lighting pass of the whole scene. Keep in mind that none of the set dressing here is done. None of the props are really shaded. This is all going to be worked on in the next couple of weeks. Then this one was very, very exciting because, well, it doesn't look very exciting, but what you can see here is that the background is blurred and Ellie is not blurred, which is a big thing because it's not very easy to do. It wasn't very easy to do, but now it is because Brecht made a great feature for us where you can just uncheck motion blur for one layer, in this case, the background. And there we go, it is there. And huge shout out also to Paul, who made the compositing workflow of this all very seamless, finding the files and everything. So super great. Then we did have some render issues on Nightfall with the VDB caches, which are, I think, hopefully being looked at. Bastian helped finding the crash. You can also see that here in the first couple of frames of the sequence, I simulated the fire, so that's the VDB cache that actually went wrong. hopefully we're going to see that also fixed in the future. Then big thing, first pass of snacks. You saw some of this last week. I continued lighting the sequence. Now most of Ellie's side of the sequence is now actually done. We're gonna look at some of the effects later on that that Simon was working on. And again, prop texturing isn't fully done here. So, but hopefully we will see more of this sequence next week. There we go. Okay, that's about as much as I have. And then there was Elder Sprite. Elder Sprite was started last week by Simon, who made the technology for this whole thing. And he's super challenging because he has to look very fuzzy and and very cute and cuddly, and then he's going to turn super evil, of course. So I took over this from Simon. He made the initial system using geometry nodes, which is still there, but they were instancing geometry nodes hairs, and I replaced them with actual hairs, and that's how that looked like. So I played around with this a little bit. I did the groom of the mustache, which is an additional hair particle layer that sits on top of the geometry node's fuzziness. And then I did the same for the eyebrows. I'm not fully happy with that. But then Simon took it over, and I'm showing also some of his stuff here. So he made it super fluffy, which is nice because now he looks super cuddly. It's great. And we had a bit of a render time problem with this because at first this was like half an hour or so for a very low sample render. So I went back into the scene, did some adjustments, and now this renders in 10 minutes, hopefully. And it should be fine. And then Simon and Matt figured out the rest of the pipeline, and next week we will hopefully see more of him. I think I'm not going to bore you with more of me. And that's my week.
And that's so cool. It's so awesome to see like shots being lit once you, well, I already mentioned this, but it's really rewarding. Yeah, so for animation, we had a crazy week as well. A lot, like we're on full speed in animation, and like shots getting approved on the last day today, which is yeah, very cool. We have snacks almost done, like we're just there. We have one more week actually on that. Drown is half of the shots are done. Nightfall pretty much is done. There's 2 shots left there, so we're really up to speed, and we're actually hunting down Hjalti and Andy to get the following sequences ready earlier than the planning. So I'm super happy about that. So that means that next week we have a little bit of a buffer week for some animators to pick up some fine tuning of notes that have been left. So let me share my screen here and talk a little bit about me. I mean, about my week. So just for all of you to know, there is a production lesson that I uploaded in the beginning of the week. By the way, can you hear me all right? It's good?
Yep.
Okay. Where I show a little bit of the workflow on a simple shot here, where I animate killing one of the sprites here and how that's done. So you can take a look at that. Next to that, let me jump to my playlist on Kitsu here. I started on some drown shots. So this is the sequence where J is getting drowned in P, sadly. And a couple of shots that I tackled are the shots with the sprites peeing. Let me put this on HD right here. And this shot right here is the first one of them peeing down here. And yeah, like it was a little bit of a test if the rigs with the peeing were working, because some of them are coming in and start peeing, but that all worked out. There's a couple of more of these shots. like one of them here. So as we don't have any little weenies in there, we had to make sure that the P stream was thick enough to kind of cover that. So I'm very curious how this is gonna look in lighting.
We would prefer to call them Sprite berries, if possible.
Sprite berries, sorry. Cool. So these shots, yeah, were pretty straightforward to get done. The big challenge was to get all of the sprites in there and make them look unique, act unique, but also keep them as a unified crowd, so nothing stands out from one or the other. Next up is one of the shots where we see Jay struggling for ground that's slowly getting away from his feet. Also, this shot was a very easy one to get done. I'm picking the low-hanging fruits on the show right here. Another one here with also the sprites along with the boombox getting thrown in. And actually, let me show a first pass on this. I think so I uploaded a couple of passes before we show and here there's, let me see. Yeah, right here. So this was the first pass I showed. Let me do a little bit of a comparison here to the last animation. So what you see here is that the sprites were not moving or like moving a little bit. And the note was that on the right side, the sprites were more excited about about Jay being killed. So they're laughing more and being more active on that shot. Last up for drown was just the boombox getting drowned. So those were easy seconds to get for this week. Next to that, I had a little kickback from lighting. There was something with one of the sprites, and let me get to the right frame here, where one of the sprites was actually hitting a rim light because he wasn't placed correctly onto a Victoria. So that's something I did in animation. You probably won't notice because it's going so fast, but we're all about the details here. Then lastly, for these shots that were done by Hjalti, I had to make sure that the final flashlight was also animated here. So lighting will be able to take over these shots as well. So it's this one and this one right here. Almost looks like a god ray that's kind of going into the bush. But yeah, I'm very excited to see these one lit as well. So that was my week.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this week, with the characters being all done, modeled last week, this week my focus was mainly on the shoe. This is the bloody shoe minus the blood. At the bottom here, these are the reference images from Andy. So the shape and thickness and more chunky to fit with the style of Sprite. The color scheme is very simple white with a double Velcro. The reason why it's white is just so that the blood stands out. So that will be done in surfacing. So this is the shoe with the topology on the top. And that's been approved, so that's good. And just want to show the extra images for the current layout is what we've been seeing so far. The shot reference with the new shoe, I prepared something close to the layout. To just see it in that angle, because that's the only angle we'll be seeing it in the short time that it's in the film. Then Matthew drew an altered shot as a reference for it being, because here in the layout was a left shoe. So I recreated the left shoe. So then it was altered so that you'd see that it would be a right shoe. So here then Andy recreated the altered shot using the right shoe instead of the left. So that's done. And then while the shoe was in the middle of being approved, there was some extra time, so I was able to fit in 2 extra props. And so one of them is Phil's barbecue lighter fluid. So we have the lighter fluid with the open spout and then with the closed spout. And then since it's Phil's lighter fluid, we have Phil's hand here and the lighter fluid with this is the layout model that's just been adjusted a little bit by Hjalti and Andy, because the one that you see in the film so far is a bit thinner. So they adjusted the scale of it, the dimensions. And so from there, I created the model for the lighter fluid with spout included. And then my last piece, the lighter fluid also was approved, and this also was approved. So everything's approved this week, which is a good week. So the last thing was the butterfly leaf that was transformed into a snail leaf. So this is the snail leaf right here using the butterfly leaf. What I did was I subdivided it once. And then here you can see in blue Andy's annotation notes of describing where the chomping for the snail should happen, what it should look like, and how large it is. So what I did was I created the topology to follow the chomping line and used shrink wrap modifier. So this was kind of like a little retopo work. And then from here, it's separated as 2 separate pieces. And that's it for me.
Okay. Probably small screen right now, but hang on. Okay. So my goal this week was to create another set of props. And I really like to show this one. This is the salty dills.
Oh, yeah.
Factorized image of Don. So the label and yeah, that was the salty dills. And the royal salt is next, which is only for fancy people because you need to shake it with elegance and grace. So if you want some salt, so that was pretty fun to create. And I finished the salty meat stick that I worked on last week, which has some very interesting ingredients. I also posted or applied the feedback from Matthew. There were some spelling corrections that I need to apply, so that's done as well. And then for the spray sequence, you've, I guess, pretty much seen this already, but I wrapped up this shot for lighting. Oh, can you guys hear the audio? Or?
Yep. Oh, you meant the audio of the shot? No?
Wait, let me mute this. Sorry, guys. So I basically wrap this shot up. Pretty happy about it. I hope we could add a few tweaks in comp, but I won't. I don't want to sound lazy, but so yeah, that's wrapped up for this week. Let me see what else. Yeah, I started working on almost a very rough first pass of the nightfall shots. Yeah, very rough. Optimizing the scene and using the new animations from Rick. So probably work on this more next week. So now I'm finished.
This week I was working on a snack sequence. I'm going to show you my shots. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so these are my shots. For the first one, the challenge was to animate both sprites with the same speed and grabbing the stick because it's moving and the arms are like following the stick and everything. Also, there was a problem with the layout because I have to match the position. And now it looks very nice. After this shot, I was working on this one that I like a lot because it's very funny. I think it's looking great. Finally, I was working in this shot that the challenge was not only the animation, was the among of constraints, because there was a lot. There are a lot of sticks and a lot of contact between the hands, the sticks, the back, and that was the most challenging shot that I have done for the moment because it was like very technical. Yes, so. But I think it's looking nice. So I think that was my week.
So this week, I mostly rigged a bunch of props. Actually, that's not even what I did most of it. It probably took like 1 day total, but here's the first batch of props, flour, and then beer cans, and then more beer cans, I think. Yeah, more beer cans, and then this berry leaf thing, and then that's the first batch, and then there's more. So there's the second batch from yesterday, I think, another flower. Most of these are, of course, modeled by Julien, so they're beautiful. And then clover, and then I slapped a bunch of bears into this bag. It looks good from the side, but don't look at it from above. Egg with a bunch of broken pieces and custom divots for all the broken pieces. So hopefully you guys can make it roll on the ground as you want. And then the not broken egg, and this is a dirt mound that Rex steps on to murder a snail, I believe, in the very beginning. Oh, and then the lighter fluid that Angela showed you guys earlier has a couple of bones as well. So that's all lame props. The exciting part of the week was Phil's body is now rigged. Again, that was, and this is an animation that I just grabbed from Ellie. So this is an Ellie's run cycle on Phil. It works beautifully, as much as you can possibly expect. But so yeah, his body has deformations, hopefully set up for good enough for initial testing. And yeah, I will be curious what the animators will think about some areas, because yeah, he's a pretty tricky character to figure out. And there has been some funky tech going on into it, especially to the weight painting, because the blur brush is terrible. We don't have multi-object weight painting. So I basically had to weight paint like a halper mesh and then just transfer the weights from that, which actually turned out a lot better than I expected. So that's that. And then what I don't have a video of is also like equally big chunk of the week as props and Phil was addressing J feedback, because as soon as J was done, like a bunch of animators jumped on animating various shots with J. So I had a ton of J feedback, and a lot of things on him were improved and fixed and reworked and added. And I think that's all of the words that you can do with a rig. So that's it for me.
So this week I was with Nightfall as well. The same week. Last week, I mean. This shot I showed you last week too, but well, as I said, the main challenge here for me was to read the breathings and the stuff. So well, on the left we have the first pass that I present, and the note that gave me the most important one was when Houston wake up. Make her wake up in a straight line, so it's more like a pop in the frame, so it looks more smooth and it looks better. And then I continue polishing the shot. And well, the final version is on the right. And well, the note I got here was to reduce the breathings. Well, the last breathing when he says guys, because then we have this, we lose the intensity of the breathing and it's more natural. And yeah, well, that shot is approved. And then I jump to this one. So here I'm showing you, wait, this is not being at the same time. And these two are the two first pass that I made, because at the beginning I make this one on the left, but it was really weird for me, so the way he turns with the two hands, and thinking which we change to the right one, where he first looked to the flashlight with the right hand, and it's more organic. And then for this one, I start polishing the shot, because for the beats were working actually fine, so it was just a matter to add frames and make it look good. And yeah, that's my week.
My week, it was, I think, one of my best weeks in terms of shots approved and shots done. So last week I showed you the shot before, and this week I've been doing, I think I showed you version 8 of this, and then we have, so this is what you saw last week. It is some kind of blocking when it needs to hit with the hand, so this is not implemented, and all the hair and etc. And then we can compare that with the final version. I want to say this. So in this one, I add the hair animation, little details, you know, polish. Yeah, you hardly don't notice, but you feel it. You know, the knees are more clean. There were some pops in the shoulders. So yeah, and I think this is approved. So I think I did it even faster than for once. So now it's gonna be much better. And then we have the famous 90. I'm really looking forward to see the simulation. And then this is what I showed you last week, and I've been doing this week, basically pushing the arm, having a bit more difference in the way that I see he's doing this, you know, and melting. And then we were playing. This is a typical animation thing. This is some kind of like Rick can tell. If you notice this spacing on this leg, this is normally like a bit back and forth because we see it, but it was a bit stressed, as you mentioned it, and we push it a bit more in the last one to have it more like losing balance, and then goes from this one to this leg that it has weight and it's more push. As well, because of the leg, I have to push a little bit more the stick, so I think it's better more. So looking forward to see the next version. And then we have here, I have it written, so the right one. This is version 1, and I'm gonna show you here version 4. So first version, like some kind of blocking. So this is what I did and recommended. And then here we have a little bit of in between is more into just the tool what it could give me, and then we show this to the directors. For example, they mentioned this O here, it was a bit too much of a circle, so I reduce it. And then you could see here in version 4 and here in version 7 that is all magically smooth. And yeah, so I animate the hair, or trajectory is more clean, arcs, pupils. For example, Andy just asked me the signing of this. I did it in the one side, so now we have the right screen left that Andy just asked me. Thank you. So yeah, this is I think it's approved. Well, yeah, and Rick asked me as well to animate the knee because it was a bit frozen in this area, as you can see. So I animate this to feel a bit more connected. And now I'm with this shot. That is a tricky one, to be honest. It's a challenge, it's good, you know. So I did, yeah, this is the first version I showed to Rick to start. Now this is what I was doing this afternoon, but still there's a lot left to do. It's more difficult than it looks like, because you know, the more advanced, the more you play it, the less space you have to do things, and the more difficult it becomes to create silhouettes and nice posing. So yeah, I will work on this one and another one that's like the Sable, Star Wars thing. So yes, that was my week. A lot of shots, and hope you like it.
So for this week, I continued blocking on shot 10, the sequence of Drown, and also started blocking on shot 20, the shot after. So here's the first shot 10, where Jay jumps into the tunnel, trying to hide from the sprites, and then they start peeing on him. The shot over here to your left is my first pass blocking. So it's a little isolated compared to the one on the right. So that's the change that I did. So I'm hoping to get that final today. So here we go. And then shot 20. This is the shot after, where the sprites start peeing. You can actually see the sprites peeing on him, and he gets up. And he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" You know. But yeah, that's my week. Oh, and I also did a little back and forth with Demeter on Jay, some rig fixes and some polishy stuff, because I had a lot of penetrations with the sleeve here. If I can find it, right here, this area here. So I had Demeter had some controls, so we could clean this up, and also I had some penetrations with the mouth, with the jacket coming through, if I can find it here. Yep, right in here. Right. Jacket was coming through the mouth, so we got to clean that up. But yeah, that was my week.
And Mac, I just want to say I love how you got the mouth more extreme on that down shot. It looks really funny. So thanks for doing that.
So first off, like what's with colors? There were like some like small adjustments to the set over here. Some little notes about like the silhouette on the cliffs, cleaning that up a bit. And also I made sure that it's not really visible over here, but at least I made sure that the model of the tree trunk is not like really like intersecting with the cliff that much. So it looks more natural if it eventually slides off. Other than that, I started to work on more sets. So there is this set over here, which is right at the beginning. There's a bunch of sets missing there, and this was the first one to be done. I had to model like a bunch of different little like tree assets for this, because this is supposed to be a different part of the forest with different oak trees that are supposed to look less old, and everything is a bit more open. There's still like far off like background forest missing, but that's going to be a separate asset. Other than that, this is pretty much all we need for animation. Other than after that, I started to like put in the lights and just see how this works actually when rendered out. I tried putting like grass in the foreground out of focus, but it made everything feel really crowded, so there was some more feedback. I started to clear up everything a bit more, and we need to do some more stuff on the ground. It doesn't feel that natural yet, but this is at least the current status of the set. The one that directly follows after that is this one, the lineup set. And this is just like a bunch of forests, same part of the forest. So I just started to kind of scatter the same assets around. But luckily we have basically all of this out of focus and behind all the main characters. So this is just the first frame of the shot, somewhere in the middle, and then the last one. So the lighting it's all just temporary, but so this is also going to change. It's going to change the mood a lot. But for the sets, this is already pretty far. Apart from that, there were just a bunch of tweaks to little props that are going to be used for the animation in the background. Some of this was already rigged by Matt. So there's like the little dandelion, which is going to get planted. There's the 6-pack fastener for the beer cans and for the bird. And there was this little dirt hill, which the snail will be munching on. And then some more time was invested in just making variations of all of these snacks and beer cans that are then going to be scattered around in the mushroom grove. There's still a couple missing over here. There's like one of the wrappers. And I will basically place this in the set file so it can be used anytime in any shots. Apart from that, there's nothing apart from like a live stream I did on Thursday. But yeah, that's basically my week.
I have 3 beautiful shots from Nightfall and approved. That is more important. And this shot I showed you last week that I have some problems that we didn't know where to go with the acting. So I simplified everything. And what I got is this. She's really just falling asleep, talking, some little details like this double blink, and that's it. Next, this is the shot right after that it doesn't have that much of a secret. It's just breathing. It was a thing to find a cool pose, stick to that and make effects to the notepad and stuff and snoring. Okay, and this one was approved today. So it's a cool way to end the week. And this was the first pass, and this was the last pass. You see different in the expression. I wanted to start like, she was doubtful if should I go or not, but really this is much better to really stick in that scared pose. I think animators have this thing too. We really want to move things and change expressions, but this is much better. And I still have to do some notes like this scarf right here that it's smashing with the shoulders, but I'll fix that.
Looks great, Monica.
That's it.
Great.
That was my week.
This week I finished up my last shot on snacks for the moment, and it was this shot of Ellie. It's like the continuation of the other shots. At the beginning, she was more like, I don't want to hurt you. And now she's like, okay, don't come to my backyard. I'm gonna, keep your distance, please. I'm gonna smash you up. So she's having like a small change in attitude. So she's going from being afraid to being like, okay, I'm tired of this crap already. So yeah, first I started making a layout blocking version. That is this one is I just put like some poses. Later we decided to spice the things up a bit more. So this is too slow. So yeah, we made some changes and some some changes on the timing and everything. So, but basically it was already on a good way. I start to refine more, and I start to add some lip sync already. Yes. So yeah, I did some later some changes on the snacks also, like the placement of them, of the bags and everything, and also like the way that the snacks they were moving, and also like the way that she was moving, because we wanted add like a smaller step, and later I kind of did it, but not big enough, so we were like later changing that. And this is the last version. It doesn't want to work now. Yes, no, yes, no. Well, my browser is doing awesome. Yes, now. Here is the last version. I made all the snacks going in a better way out, and also I added like some peanuts in the can, and some peanuts that they were going out also when she put the hand in. you have like some peanuts, like they just jump out. I animated the hair, I animated the earrings, I put some squares and stretch on the head. So yeah, that was done. After that, I took this this shot over. It was like the first version. There was this jump. It was too much, and he was looking like super athletic, like a kind of parkour. But we wanted to make him a bit more. Yeah, that he was not. Well, like he has like big shoes and everything, so I don't think that he could do that kind of movement. So I did this small version. Yes, that he's like more trying to put the hand here and try to go over. It was looking good, so I started to try different stuff, and I had like some sliding in here, so like he's missing the step. And then yeah, I have like some notes that you can see here in red, but basically they were like a small notes, like jumping a bit higher, having like a more of a like less of a stretch arms and everything, and try to reduce this part a bit more. So I end up doing this. It's not final, but it's almost final. Almost final. So yeah, basically what I end up doing here, it was also adding extra information on the feed on once. So like this, it was giving the illusion that it's having more more information there, and it's having more movement. And yeah, that's it. I still have to finish up the hat and the chain and everything, and a bit the pants, but yeah, that should be
awesome.
So this week I continue to work on the render review tool, so our lighting guys can have a cool way to actually review their shots and approve them. So there's now a new button here that says Enable Blender Kitsu, which basically uses some features of the Blender Kitsu add-on. So these two things come together. So what you can do now, which is new, is you can say, I want to review a whole sequence, for example, by selecting an actual sequence folder. And if you then log into Kitsu before and then say review the sequence, it will take a while, but it will collect all renders of the whole sequence and like make them here nice in the sequence editor, and even create like this blue meta strip that has the link to the Kitsu shot. And that's a cool and fast way to load the sequence in the morning after the render farm is finished and look at your shots. And there's a new, also a shortcut registered with the add-on. When you press 1, you can solo view a strip, which is quite handy. Also here I show the metadata strip, which is connected to Kitsu. And if you press 1, you can solo view a strip, and that's like a fast way to check the different versions of your rendering. And with Alt 1, you can view them all again. Yeah, and then you can, oh yeah, and there's also a new function which is push to edit, and this basically takes all the JPEG image sequence files, makes a MP4 with FFmpeg if it doesn't exist yet, and put it in our Dropbox so Hjalti can use it for the edit. So we have like an interesting sort of workflow where all the files are, but this button does it, and it's all automated and quite nice. And yeah, it just makes things faster and with less errors. It also automatically sort of versions the shots, as you can see. So it created an MP4 with version 1. If I would click it again, it would make a version 2. And yeah, so that's quite handy. And yeah, what is also nice about these meta strips here is, for example, Andy could go now ahead and select all those meta strips. And if he goes to the Kitsu tab and says, I want to render something to Kitsu for the lighting task, he could do that with one click, and it would, for each shot on Kitsu, update a render of the sequence editor. And yeah, there's just a little button there, which is currently hidden here, that opens the file explorer where you can inspect the frames like this. And yeah, it also shows you how many frames are there and stuff like this. So all little things that help us to manage the review process better. Then there's another thing. because we have the issue in the edit currently. Hjalti uses this color strip so he can view the subtitles better. But for the final export, we don't want that. We want our film in the actual format we want to have in the end. So I created another thing that can export your movie here. And it actually does all sorts of things in the background, like changes all the aspect ratios, hides all the subtitles and all the color strips, and actually exports the movie as it is or as it's supposed to be in the end, and also creates subtitles for you. So you have here the movie without, you know, the color overlay, which you saw on the edit, in the right format. And then you can go ahead and say, I want to load the subtitles and load the SRT file, and it will actually display the subtitles for you. And for that, because it was not working in Blender, or at least the way Blender wrote the subtitles was like wrong a little bit, I actually made a change in the Blender source code and made my first ever commit in Blender, which is super cool. Yeah, and it's approved and in Blender, which is awesome. Right. And yeah, then I had a wonderful long discussion with Sibren about flamenco and got some insights how it works, changed some stuff on the shot builder. And next week, I'm gonna work on a tool that somehow is able to make like a contact sheet of all your shots for reviewing, so you can see your whole sequence in one image to, I don't know, see if the lighting matches or whatever. But this is still work in progress. So let's see if it works next week. Yeah, that was my week.
So yesterday I finally started full-time onto this project, and Rick assigned me with the marvelous task of filling the village. My computers have had a hard time on this, especially yesterday. It's over 30 sprites and multiple other characters. So yesterday I just started with placing all the sprites based on Matthew's sketch. And today it was posting a few things out, removing animations that I appended from other shots, or at least freezing the frames. And there was like one note of Rick where I had to move the dancing sprite. So this is how far I got. I still have to fill up a few more creatures and pose all the characters out, but yeah, it's getting there. So yeah, that's actually what I've done.
Very cool. It looks great. Thank you for doing this. It's awesome.
So this week was mostly about effects. I also spent some time on Ellis Sprite. You already saw that Andy shot at the beginning, but yeah, mostly was about effects. So that was, for example, the hairspray effects that you already also saw in the in the rendered version. But for that, I made an asset with geometry nodes, so that we have a nice and easy way to just add in effects wherever we need them and have all control in the world with all these different settings. Yeah, seed and everything. So yeah, in the beginning we were not sure how we were going to do this exactly, thinking about doing a simulation, but why not just do it with geometry nodes? Makes everything nice. But yeah, perfectly beautiful rig as well. We have like one parameter to bend it around, and then yeah, I went in to use it in the shots. There was one shot. This is difficult having a preview. Oh. Yeah, so I went in. There's this one shot where she's actually like frantically waving the spray around while she's spraying. So I went in and just added it to the different cans and added the different settings so it aligns. And as you can see here, I can't frame by frame with this video play, unfortunately, but there's this effect where when she stops spraying, it like goes away for a couple of frames. And at first I just added it in, make sure that it aligns with the timing and everything. And then I went in and also used the beautiful bend effect so that it followed the movement. And again, then I had just one more iteration where I made it a little bit more smooth because just made it look a little bit nicer because it was mostly on twos before. And that's the final version and the play last. And then we also have the rendered. Yeah, so it's a pretty subtle effect, but I added like a mix of having a volume shader and a little bit of a surface shader to add some streaks in the beginning. And it worked out quite nicely also for the other shots. So I'm not sure where I have that actually. Oh, it's this one. For the other shots where we see it a little bit more close up. This shot, no spray here. See like that. And then this last shot where it's also affecting Victoria, but just adding a little bit more like a wet film on her skin and destroying her makeup. Yeah. So the effects for this are done pretty much, or done, final. And then there was the melting sprites. So last week I showed a bunch of first explorations with geometry nodes, and a bunch of the setups were using experimental stuff that I couldn't use for the actual thing, so I needed to go back and do some more adjustments with the actual tools that I can use, and that was the first iteration of just doing that. I get better render to just see how it looks, and if it looks nice and gross, then some small tweak just in the shading, and adding some smoke. And at that point, I was happy enough to move on to the actual thing because this was just a testing setup, and went into the first couple of shots to see how this works together with the actual animation. This was the first iteration, bunch of bubbles, yeah, just iterations where I just changed some of the parameters and tried to make it look in general. A bit more of a melting effect here. And right now it looks more like this. And we also have it rendered. I think this is the latest one. It's a pretty short shot, but it was very important to just get this figured out so we can just copy it easily to the other shots. And with one other one, I started with that today. With the one where the sprite goes like, "Ah, my eyes." This one. The first version was maybe a little bit extreme because we kind of wanted to ramp up the effect as well, so I went a little bit less on that. But it's, yeah, but we wanted to like ramp up the effect. This is the first shot where we actually see a sprite melting. It's gonna be nice and gross later on, no worries. Yeah, in the rendering, I just have a still here. But you do see the melting effect also in this version. This is a little bit more extreme. Did not show that, so. And that's my week.
That was so cool to see, guys. And that was everybody.
Very good way to wrap up a meeting, seeing these guys melting like that. So that's awesome. I'm gonna have everybody have sweet dreams tonight. Thinking of that. Okay, that was great.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody, for this awesome week, and we'll see each other next week. Have a good weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.